Well, the first thing to say is that in order for anybody to do a convincing performance, it is apparent that they have to believe in the character they're playing. And hats off to Andrea Riseborough, who clearly does buy into the idea of Wallis Simpson as portrayed by the movie. And I think that in the movie she gives a very, very fine performance as Wallis Simpson. She's a very good actress. She was terrific in Brighton Rock. She's a rising star. We will see much, much more of her. And I think that her belief in the character has enabled her to provide what is one of the best performances in one of the worst films I have ever seen. Because outside of her performance, the film is so benightedly wrong-headed in every possible way that it's really hard to know where to begin. In fact, let's begin at the end. The film won a Golden Globe for Best Song, the song called Masterpiece. Not a brilliant idea to write the theme song for your film and call it Masterpiece, Madonna, and it does open with the immortal line, "If you were the Mona Lisa, you would be hanging in the Louvre." Factually accurate, and probably the most factually accurate thing that's in the film, but on the other hand, something which reminds us of Bermuda Triangle, it makes people disappear. So, for a start, why the split time structure? Why is it that on the one hand we have the story of W.E. and on the other hand we have the Abby Cornish story in the modern world in which she is Wally Winthrop looking back over history, having her own marital problems, wandering around, falling in love with a security guard at a museum who turns out, of course, not just to be a Russian security guard. In fact, he is, in the manner of these things, an academic intellectual who plays the piano and reads poetry, living in the kind of apartment block that apparently, if you're slumming as a security guard whilst doing those things, you can still afford. And essentially, I came to the conclusion that the reason the modern stuff is there is that there is some weird worry on the part of the filmmakers about showing royal rumpy. So rather than doing that, what you do is you have a parallel modern story in which you can have Abby Cornish, walking around in various exotic underclothes and having those kind of adventures. Whilst on the other hand, you can retain.
There's no plumbing adventures.
No. But you can but there is the scene in which she dances.
It's a suggestion of a plumber.
Yes,
being needed.
The plumber happens to be a Russian wearing a kilt and a bearskin hat for reasons which
they always do.
Okay, fine. So
you order one from reception.
You order one, and that's what you get. So for the problem number one, the split story structure doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. You spend the whole time going, what, who, why, where are we, who, and where, and he, and what, and why is the Russian wearing a kilt and a funny hat? Of course, the script is written by Madonna and Alex Kashishian, who has worked with her before, and together they have come up with what can only be called an utter raspberry pudding of a script. It is one of the worst written things I've ever heard. No sense of any kind of historicity or anything. People talk all the way through it as if they're talking in a Madonna video. Even the newsreaders sound like somehow they're from a completely other... Okay, fine. So that stuff out the way. It's catastrophic in terms of its structure. Then we get to the problem of the modernity, which is that on the one hand it wants to be the story about Wallis, on the other hand it wants to be terribly modern, and we have that moment in which everyone in the past thing dances around to Pretty Vacant. Now you think, well, hold on, if the Sex Pistols are famous for anything at all, it is for sort of, blowing raspberries at the monarchy. So how on earth they would feel about their song being used in the context of a drama whose basic premise is, that monarch that you all thought, you said yourself, widely portrayed as a Lothario, as a Nazi sympathiser, and we got the right king in the end. How on earth the Sex Pistols would feel about their music being... Well, actually, they probably wouldn't care because they're the Sex Pistols. It's a royalty.
Cash from chaos.
But the only reason that scene is there is clearly because Madonna saw Marie Antoinette at one point, the movie Marie Antoinette, in which they use all the Adam and the Ants music, and went, oh, that's a good idea. Look, period costume, but modern music. Let's do that. The Pretty Vacant scene is a real clunker, but... Even worse than that, and for me, one of the sort of real telltale problems, there is a scene in the movie in which our modern-day heroine, Abby Cornish, playing Wally Winthrop, whatever her name is, who is investigating the life of Wallis Simpson, in whom she's incredibly interested, while the rest of us are bored out of our minds, because everyone is from this sort of... enormously moneyed, wealthy boat. I don't care. I care less about these people than I care about the characters in Sex and the City too, right? They're the kind of people for whom an emotional crisis means whether or not they pay $20,000 or $30,000 for a pair of gloves that was once worn by somebody who was vaguely connected to royalty. I'm sorry, I don't care about them, but apparently Madonna does. But in the middle of her voyage of discovery, she goes to meet Mohammed Al Fayed, right? who is just beamingly benevolent and fantastic. He owns the key to the vaults. He has all the secret letters, which actually will explain the story in all proper way. He's fantastic. He's lovely. He says, marvellous, go, off you go. Here we are. And at the end of the thing, at the end of the movie, it says, thanks so much to Mohammed Al-Fay, gave us all this wonderful access. Now, look, sorry, if you're going to make a film which is revising history, in which the revisionist history you're saying is, in fact, these people were terribly misjudged. In fact, he wasn't a Nazi sympathiser. In fact, none of these, they're real people that worked in a completely different way. It may not be the most tactful thing to have at the centre of your movie the giver of all truth and all benevolence and all goodwill to be Mohammed Al-Fayed, a person who, let's face it, in terms of crackpot conspiracy theories, is at the very forefront of the, oh yes, well, the royals were involved in this, and the kind of conspiracy theories that even Oliver Stone would go, I'm sorry, that sounds a little bit far-fetched. Who was hiding behind the grassy knoll when the blokes were filmed landing on the moon, but actually it was the Utah? I mean, no, 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 and no. And you think that, for me, and I think it was true for you as well, that for me was the point at which I literally threw my hands up and went, oh, for heavens, no.
Yes, there's a key line in the interview where she says, we've been sold a lie. And at that point, you're thinking, well, it is true, of course, that many in the establishment said nice things about the Nazis.
Yes. It is true.
Yes,
but it is also.
It is also true that he definitely had sympathies towards Hitler. And when he was the Duke of Windsor, he met Hitler and he met Hess, I think, and they went round a concentration camp. And when he was the governor of the Bahamas, he said all kinds of things about how Hitler was going to smash the Americans. I mean, it's not. No, it isn't for dispute. This isn't a lie that we've been told. It is just the truth.
One has to say, at very best, one would have to accuse him of being not sufficiently anti-Nazi in public. I think that's the, no matter how you dress this up, that is as far as you are going to get. Insufficiently anti-Nazi in public at the right moment. I mean, there were moments...
Can I just say, Al Murray, pub landlord, has just tweeted saying, get off the fence.
Okay, fine. There was... Do you remember, I was reminded watching it of the producers. You remember that fantastic bit in The Producers when Dom DeLuise's character goes to the the guy who's written the Springtime for Hitler thing, and the guy says, "Yes, I want to reinvent Hitler because we only heard one side of him, but he was a fabulous painter and he loved to dance." And there is that whole sense of, I'm sorry, you've entered into the realms of the completely bonkers here, because what you're attempting to do is not revisionist history; it's just madcap nutsiness split over two different time frames, in which magnificently you have made me care even less about the people who previously I just dismissed as a slightly annoying historical footnote. And the way you've, obviously, Madonna, if you look at the body of her work, things like Body of Evidence, she's worked in the, upmarket erotic thriller genre. And the whole kind of Abbey Cornish end of this is playing towards that. It's the same sort of, hey, stylish, yeah, the whole thing looks like a pop video. And, fine, it's a well-dressed pop video, because of course it is, because it's a film made by Madonna, who is surrounded by people who are, sorting all that stuff out.
In fact, you can say the outfits are nice.
Yeah, the outfits are nice.
Let's be fair. Let's Al Murray. Okay, let's on the plus side.
On the plus side,
nice skirts and trousers and shirts and pajamas and underwear. And
Andrea Riseborough is great.
Yes.
And actually, if it were not for her, I think I would have walked. But
I can't. Cruelty to animals.
No, I know, but it was because and usually, people think, oh, trashing a Madonna film, yeah, that'll be fun. The worst thing about this is, because she's very good, it makes the crushing awfulness of the rest of the movie even worse. It's balderdash. It's badly written, badly played, historically preposterous. There are moments in it that are so jaw-droppingly ill-judged that you think, I can't believe this ever got through a script meeting, and then you realise, of course, it didn't get through a script meeting. And there was some fantastic twisted injustice in the fact that the Golden Globes gave it the award for Best Song for a song which begins, if you were the Mona Lisa, you'd be hanging in the Louvre, therefore sparking Elton John and David Furnish into apoplectic fits about how dare they, because no one can remember or hum that song. Believe me, the Golden Globes, wrong-headed as they may be, were right. That awful, unsingable, unrepeatably terrible song is almost the best thing about the film, except Andrea Riseborough, who's really great.